Well, welcome everybody. We appreciate you all being here. I think you're going to find the program very informative and very rewarding. And if you all will pause a moment and stand, I'm asking Mr. Alan Huffines to lead us in the prayer, followed by Barbara Harless leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Oh, there we go. Who would like to lead us in the Texas Pledge? Kurt, go ahead.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, we have a number of guests here. If you're here by yourself, as we go around the table, please identify yourself. We'd love to know who you are. And if you brought a guest, let us know. So let me start on this side over here. Do we have any guests? Leah?
This is my friend, longtime friend, Mary Ann Dunn. She's just retired, so now she can come to these meetings.
Okay, on the this side over here, Regina?
Hi, I have a guest. This young man is running for office for the House of Representatives in District 66. That's like West Plano. And I met him not too long ago, and boy, he's just jumped in, and he's just out there for preserving the Constitution.
Great.
He's running as a libertarian. Okay?
Okay. Mr. Montgomery?
I'm Mark Montgomery, chairman of the Dallas County GOP. And with me today is Brady Clayton, our executive director, and along with us is Larry Wainert, who works with me on the Sabotathon staff.
Great. On the back table, yes. Oh, yes, Carol, good to see you.
Carol Haynes, my guest.
Suzanne?
This is Captain Stuart Nelson, very, very strong activist, especially on the 911 and exposing that. And also Brad McLean is also, yes, you're working very hard on the Earth Lonnius campaign to elect him as Dallas County Sheriff.
Kurt was going to try to make it. We'll introduce him if he does come.
He's sick.
Oh, okay. Was there someone in the back there? Yes.
Yes, I'm Marty Casey. This is my grandson visiting from Atlanta, Georgia.
Any other guests?
I'm Mary Bosworth. I am your brother.
Well, we thank you all for being here. As I mentioned at previous meetings, the Bulletin of the John Birch Society is our monthly bulletin that comes to our members every month and outlines the projects and activities and explanations of what's happening in the country on the major issues and why. And we do a review of that at these meetings. So to start the review of the bulletin tonight on our lead project, I'm going to call on Mr. Charles Casey.
Thank you, Bill. In our bulletin that all of you should have gotten, this time there's an emphasis, as there will be for a long time to come, on supporting our local police. And I want to just I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and then I'm going to give you a call for action. The John Birch Society's emphasis regarding supporting your local police ranks as high in importance as our efforts to get us out of the United Nations. It is one of those efforts that will be ongoing long after many of us are gone, and it's going to be dependent on us to pass that on to the current younger generation as well as the generation to come behind them. The subjugation of the American people must take place for the new world order to succeed. An integral part of that would be a national police force and the acceptance of the United Nations authority over our own posterity. The local police and sheriff have the capability to stand in the way of federal efforts to usurp the constitutional powers of states and local governments. But we have a new generation of uninformed people that must be educated regarding who the bad guys really are, and in the vast majority of cases, it is not the local police. A little power is a dangerous thing. Organizations such as the National Municipal League, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National Governors Association will at some point become advocates of a more progressive solution to perceived issues or even real issues instead of resolving those on a local basis, and will reach out to the federal government for answers. You need only look as far as Ferguson, Missouri and Chicago, Illinois to see examples of that. Part of our motto in the John Birch Society is less government and more responsibility. On that subject, wouldn't it be great if not only our politicians but people in general, if you listen as this political season is going on, there is so many times that the word freedom is used. Why can't we go back to using the word liberty? Freedom denotes no responsibility, do whatever you want to do. Liberty comes with responsibility. Back to our local police. We only need to go back 2 days to see how quickly people start blaming local police. In the case I'm talking about, of course, in Orlando. I heard a retired military man say that Congress holds part of the blame for the mass shooting that took place in Orlando this last Sunday morning, and he gave 3 points to support his thesis. One was to bomb the heck out of ISIS overseas when they even think about killing Americans on American soil. Number 2 was to provide intelligence to local police from federal government sources. Number 3 was to provide heavy weapons to local police and training for local police from federal sources. And many of you know in previous reports in the bulletin, it has given specifics of how financial aid has been offered to these smaller towns that can no longer afford the types of weaponry and the types of material that they need and the types of training they need. I heard recently that 50% of the budget of the city of Dallas, 50% of the revenue is for law enforcement. And so it's a very expensive thing, and the federal government, it's a great, easy way for them to weasel in and just exercise more of their power. Oh, just watch. The demonstrations from last Sunday will start very soon. And just as free enterprise cannot merge with socialism, there is no such thing as a spontaneous demonstration. These are planned, including the time of day, the theme, and who it is that gets to demonstrate. So the single strategy to form a national police force is, number one, to build a force at the street level to create violence in the name of fighting supposed or real police brutality or the inability of the local police force to handle the situation. Number two, to create a reaction on the part of most Americans to demand law and order, meaning federal intervention. Did you know there's actually 11 places of redress that you and I have within our state to oppose local corruption? One is the police internal affairs. 2 is the chief of police. 3 is the city council. 4 is the city attorney. 5 is the mayor. 6 is the county commissioner. 7 is the county attorney. 8 is the sheriff. 9 is the state attorney general. 10 is the state legislator. And 11 is the governor. And if all else fails, we can go to the ballot box. Now, the Support Your Local Police campaign can be the means not only to stop the movement for a national police force, but also to recruit more people into the overall program of the John Birch Society. We must oppose moves toward police consolidation, whether it is national or over a large geographic area. This brings me to the plan. In order to get our business and professional lunch group started in this Support Your Local Police effort, I've been asked to come up with a plan to implement educating our local police departments, sheriff departments, and other local authorities, as well as more of our friends and neighbors, both individually and within civic groups and other groups that we already have ties to. This is certainly not something I intend to do by myself. The first step involves volunteers to be a part of a planning committee. We need to get this organized and see what our goals will be and what our time frames are. We need to come up with a campaign to best carry our message to the people of Dallas County. A few good people who will help decide the goals and strategy to achieve the goals is what we need. If you know any police or sheriffs, we need you. If you know any civic groups, we need you. If you know any local politicians, we need you. If you know any city council members, we need you. Note, all I'm talking about at this point is a group willing to sit down together to plan the campaign, not to make the long-term commitment, but the initial committee planning of this effort. You may or may not want to continue the implementation, but we need your experience and the people that you know with influence to help us get started. One of the things that often holds back efforts like this is educated people and people having the materials that support what it is we're trying to say. We are immensely blessed in the John Birch Society to have great sources of information from our home office, and those you'll be seeing a lot more from Art Thompson and from the home office on this effort of supporting our local police, because again, this is a long-term effort. This is not a short-term issue that we're addressing. We're blessed with wonderful support materials in DVD form and in printed form, and these will help educate both ourselves as well as the people that we are talking to. The more times you tell a story, the easier it is, and the more questions that you are asked, the easier it becomes to answer those questions. I remember when we started the Agenda 21 effort, I didn't know anything about it, but I agreed to be a part of it. And in a very short period of time, through the information that the John Birch Society provided and through other sources, it was easy for our group to become much more knowledgeable about Agenda 21 than anybody that we were trying to talk to about the issue. And so it just doesn't take much. And a part of that is to the shame of the American people being ignorant of the issues. And so, but that helps to make our job all the more important to help educate them. So support your local police and keep them independent is a long-term effort of the JBS. It is critical to our municipalities, our national strength to stand against any effort to federalize our local police. Please put your name, email, and phone number on the sheet of paper that is going around. On both sides, there's a sheet of paper starting around. And keep in mind that all you're doing with this is agreeing that you will be a part of the initial planning committee. This is not asking you for a long-term commitment, but that you'll join us in setting some goals and what we're going to do. I look forward to seeing your name on the list, as several people in this room have already said that they would be glad to do that. Education is always the focus of our group of patriots in the John Birch Society. Let's educate ourselves so we can educate others. Please join the planning committee. Put your name on the sheet and you will be included, and I thank you for your time.
Well, as we learned last month with our program, that political correctness and the change of our language is a key part of trying to change our culture and change our beliefs, and that even conservative and Christian groups are beginning to fall for some of the propaganda that's being used by the media. To give a brief report on rebuilding America's education base, I'm calling on Mr. Tom Brashear.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Charles, for your presentation. In your bulletin, on page 5, item 5, rebuild America's cultural base. Talking about our Freedom Education Project. As Charles pointed out, education in all areas is key for all of us. The representative of the first state board of education in Massachusetts was Horace Mann, who went to Europe in 1843 to visit schools. He spent most of his time in Prussia, where the government schools created obedient subjects and mercenaries for its rented armies. He was impressed. Mann's 7th annual report urged Massachusetts to adopt the Prussian education system. Shortly afterwards, the governor of New York set up the same method in 12 New York schools on a trial basis, and gradually the entire nation has been brought under this statist method of education. Today, with the internet and the support of you guys and the John Birch Society members, the Birch Society has a school platform online, and it's a super project, a Freedom Education Project. It has a beautiful website. I encourage you to go to, if you have a pen and would like to write this down, it's www.F for freedom, P for project, E for education, USA.org. This is an excellent way for us to consider educating our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and our children. And we're excited about it and the opportunity that we have with the society. Obviously, like all of these projects, they require money. There is a donate tab on the website, so I encourage you to visit there, learn more about the excellent education opportunity that we and our members are providing to the masses out there. This platform is being used by homeschoolers all over the country, and again, it's very exciting, and we appreciate your support. Thank you, Bill.
On finishing the review of the bulletin, there's some commentary on the bulletin dealing with the trade pacts that are being discussed right now. And it looks like that we may have a hard battle in our hand come the lame duck session. And there's a group of conservative congressmen and senators who are trying to put up legislation to cancel any lame duck session. But it appears that the Obama administration is going to try to push through these trade pacts during that lame duck session. And of course, the trade pacts are discussing, the Pacific Trade Pact and the North Atlantic Trade Pact, create one thing that's very dangerous, none of some other things, a court system, an international court system, just like NAFTA with the NAFTA court that override the Constitution of the United States and there's no appeal to it and makes it the supreme law of that land over above the Supreme Court. So we'll be keeping you abreast on this as this develops. On the in the bulletin, too, there's a tour of the John Birch Society website for you as members that like to go through it to see how it operates, the information's at your fingertips. Please look at that page and follow it. And we also announced, too, that a new member of the National Council of the John Birch Society, which many of you know in this room, we've had him here in Dallas to speak, Mr. Tom DeWeese. And Mr. DeWeese is, I guess you'd say, been in the forefront of fighting Agenda 21, exposing it, and to the point now they're calling it Agenda 30 because we set them back several years. And let's hope we can make that Agenda 50 before long and forget about it. The CONCON issue is raging. We're going to be in a major fight on trying to stop a call for a constitutional convention at the beginning of the session. Kind of a standoff took place this last time. Oklahoma passed the CONCON. Delaware rescinded the CONCON. So the numbers are staying about the same right now. And Suzanne, did you have an announcement on something you have here?
I just handed everyone a handout on the so-called free trade agreements on TPP. Please call your congressman, like Bill was saying, to stop this and don't have a lame duck session because these trade agreements are Obama, I think, his last signature legislation to get through. And it's showing now that 52% of Republicans are now against the trade agreements. So that's very strong. In fact, at the Republican convention, the plank on the trade agreements got 90% against the trade agreements and only 10% for. So that is very strong. Really, guys, please call them on this because they're really going to try to push this lame duck through the lame duck session because they know the opposition is building very strongly against it.
Thank you. Now, to help you on this, each of you will find a DVD that was placed on your place setting there. This is on the trade pacts. It's Art Thompson's talk on giving an overview of the trade pacts, and what it's doing is violating the Constitution of the United States and putting us under international control. Watch it yourself, and then send it to your congressman, send it to your senators, and we'll have supplies of these at each of the meetings for you to use, but we're going to give this one to you to get you started. So you pick first who you want to send it to, asking them to listen to it and to oppose it. There's been a number of new members on the SREC that have been elected. And of course, we've had a few of them here at the meetings in the past, and we have the representative from this area. And I've asked him just to talk about one thing happening in the SREC that deals with what we're interested in as resolutions. So I'm proud to present you Mr. Carl Voiksberger.
Thank you, Bill. We've done something different this time. How many of y'all went to the state convention last month? Wow. Yeah, that's great. Well, in the platform where we voted plank by plank, there was 5 items known as legislative priorities. I'm going to take one of these and pass them around if y'all will. Kurt, would you make sure the folks on the back row get one? Thank you. 5 legislative priorities. This idea was started in the last term by Steve Monasteri, who was chair at that time of the state party. And we did this in the resolutions committee, but we thought it would be much better if we did it with the whole Republican convention of 8,000 delegates. And so we've come up with these 5 legislative priorities, and that includes all of y'all that were there. The number 1 legislative priority was passing constitutional carry, which means your right to carry a firearm without it being registered. Number 2 was abolish abortion in the state of Texas. That's a pretty strong move. Number 3 was prioritization of funds to secure the border through whatever means necessary. And I might add that these all passed by, on average, about 90% of the delegates that were voting. Number 4, I don't like, and fortunately for us, I don't think most folks on the SREC like this one, and it's a call for a limited Article 5 convention of the states. I'll read you the whole thing. For the specific purpose of restricting the power of the federal government, including the implementation of term limits, balanced budget amendment, any proposed amendments must be ratified by 3/4 of the states. That one there only got 81%. So that was a significant drop. But I know that my brethren on the SREC are not in favor of this, so I don't know. You know, some of the other things that are proposed here may get a higher amount of attention, if you will. The 5th one was to replace the property tax system with an alternative other than the income tax. I don't know if it'll actually go down like that, but I think that we are going to see property tax reform such that if your appraisals go up 10%, for example, that the taxing entities would have to lower their tax rate by enough to even it out, something of that nature. Because now we get a tax increase every year due to our appraisals going up because, well, let's face it, it's a great place to live and work and make money. And so that brings the value of our properties up every year. But it is effectively a tax increase, so we have to fix that. Finally, they request that the delegates, that is, request that the Republican state chair and the SREC utilize reasonable party resources necessary to promote and support passage of these legislative priorities, as well as all the rest of the platform. The bottom line is, I think that if I get put back on the resolutions committee, as I did in my first 2 years, I might be on a subcommittee to help make this happen. And so I'm looking forward with great excitement to these, especially the 4 that I agree with. So is there a question, sir?
You know, the advocates for this say they want an alternative other than the income tax, but they never say it. And that is very, well, it is a cover-up, because I think what they're talking about is a value-added tax.
Well, I don't think that value-added tax, I don't think you'd find much agreement with that. But they,
What else is there?
well, to increase the sales tax.
Okay, that's one.
And that's the only one that I really know of, beside what I spoke about in reforming property tax so that it's indexed, you know, according to how much your appraisals go up versus what the tax rates are. And so I think that one's going to be pretty strong leadership you'll see on that coming out of the Texas Senate. But I wouldn't worry about a value-added tax. Thank you all. Forgot my blackboard, sir.
As many of you know, we had a booth at the Republican State Convention, and we kept running out of the introductory packets, and it seems that's all we were doing. We're putting introductory packets together, passing them out for 3 days. But we reached a lot of people, and a lot of new people. But the expenses were pretty high on doing it. And we have a pretty good bill to have to pay. We got some of the money in for it. We'd like to pay it all off this month for the literature that was given out. and the DVDs and so forth that were distributed. So that's going to be our project for this month, that go into the summer debt-free, and we hope you'll make that possible, and I'm sure our home office would be grateful to have that money during the summer months too. So we're going to pass the sheet around if you'd like to help on this. If you want to write a check, just make it out to Seminar. If you want to have a billing, just put your name and address on here and check off how much. And if you leave cash, just put your name on there and check off what the cash was, because sometimes we end up cash and we wonder where it came from or what it's supposed to be for, and this helps us keep it straight. So Travis, if you could start this on this side, I appreciate it very much. In 2014, our speaker ran for the Austin City Council to bring much-needed fiscal accountability to the Austin City budget. She noticed election irregularities associated with tabulation of electronic votes, and as a candidate, she has filed an historical election contest challenging the results of her runoff race that occurred on December 16, 2014. She will be presenting details on how Travis County is violating the Texas Constitution and Texas election laws and the implications that these issues have across Texas. Since filing her lawsuit, candidates from Tarrant, Harris, Dallas County have confirmed similar violations are occurring across the state. Her presentation is titled "Cracking the Code: Electronic Voting Machine Corruption in Texas." She's a native of Texas. She was raised in Mansfield. She earned her PhD in chemistry from UT in Austin, was an engineer and business manager in the semiconductor industry for 17 years. She holds 4 U.S. patents and is the co-author of numerous peer-reviewed scientific articles related to semiconductor devices. She's also an entrepreneur and has worked for the Texas Eagle Forum and Texas Legislature on technology issues. She has served on several boards, and she's appeared on CBS Early Show, Good Morning Austin, has testified as a citizen advocate to the City Council and Texas Senate and the House. I'm proud to present to you Dr. Laura Pressley.
I might move this. Would that be okay? Let's see, where shall we put it? Is this okay? All right. And can you see with this? Can y'all see okay? All right. Well, I'm going to grab this because I'm going to move around a little bit. There we go. Well, Mr. Cherry, thank you. I'm so grateful to the John Birch Society because you have allowed me to present in Midland, in Houston, and now Dallas, and we're working on Texarkana. We are. So just thank you so much, guys, for letting me be here. What a ordeal we've been dealing with this election corruption that we found in Travis County. And I'm going to ask in here, who has worked on campaigns? Who in here? Oh, I love it. I love y'all. And who's been an election judge in their county? Oh, bless you, because that is a thankless job, is it not? And it's long hours, and just bless you for doing that. Well, what we're going to talk about today is my race in Travis County for City Council. I ran in 2014, and, you know, as candidates, we worry about block walking, we worry about phone banking, kissing babies. We don't really worry about how the vote's counted. But I'll tell you what, if you're a candidate, you're one of the good guys, and you're going up against that status quo, you can get to the 1-yard line with a good campaign. What gets you in the end zone is keeping your election from being stolen. Okay, and that's what we've learned in the last 2 years dealing with this. You know, I ran for city council in Austin, and everybody knows Austin is so liberal, they waste a ton of money, and we had just gone to the 10-member district. Dallas went to single-member districts not too long ago, and Austin went to that in 2014. We had 10 candidates and mayor running in that race. There were a lot of runoffs because there were so many candidates. It was the first time we've done the 10 districts in Austin. And I live in the Runberg area. It's a very poor district. It's got a lot of crime, a lot of prostitution, a lot of drugs, and that district had just been formed. And there's a lot of conservatives in that district. It's a working class neighborhood. And working class people, we know better, right? We know better. We have good intuition. So I ran as an independent. In city council races, there's no partisanship, and I'm a conservative. And I was winning the campaign. And what did the Democrats do in Austin? They couldn't have that. They couldn't stop the gravy train at City Hall, the billions of dollars that are wasted in subsidies and these partnerships with corporations. They send a ton of tax dollars to these corporations. And so I was running. The Democrats moved in a little 24-year-old kid. He had lived in Austin only 2 years. It was amazing. Nothing they could do could get this kid to win. They tried every trick in the book. We were attacked. I was attacked personally. It was just the worst campaign you could imagine, because that was the 6th seat that they needed to make sure their status quo continued. And that was a battleground district, I'm going to tell you right now. So we found out that our opponent was an atheist. He had written a paper just 2 years before, because he was just out of college, right? He'd written a paper, he was an atheist. And I'll tell you what, I've been poor in my life. I grew up on a farm in Mansfield. My dad was an auctioneer at the stockyards. And we grew up telling the truth. My dad would say, you tell the truth, no matter what. And those of us come from rural communities, we know your word is your bond. And that's how I was raised. So I told the truth. I wanted the voters in my district to know he was an atheist. So we did. We sent out flyers to every single voter. And that flipped out the Austin status quo. I've been poor, and poor people are not atheists. We're not. And my district's very poor. There's no way they're going to elect an atheist. 28 square miles in my district. We have 50 churches. There's no way. There's nothing they could do to get this kid to win. We were winning in the polls. We were winning at the poll. We had done professional polls. We were winning there. We had professional electioneers at every polling location in my district. People were high-fiving us, kissing us. You got this, Laura. When the election results came in, the electronic ballot said he beat me 2-1. And there's no way on earth. I know I won that election. So what do? So I got up the next morning, and I have a background in math, chemistry, and physics, and I started analyzing a bunch of data. And what's interesting is candidates, we don't worry so much about how the votes counted and what the laws are in the state of Texas about how do you document what that computer said we voted. There's backup records that the legislature mandates for the state. They wanted some band-aids around this thing called electronic voting when it came into play in 2000 in Texas. So I got to work reading the spec. I'm an engineer. I manage engineers. We work off of work instructions. How many science and technology people? Oh, I love it, I love it. Okay. We work off of specs, right? Well, guess what? The statute is a spec for the counties to run elections, and they better be adhering to state law, right? So I started reading the election code from top to bottom, documenting what's the backup records to prove how we voted, because I didn't believe it. Something happened. I didn't know what happened. Something just happened. It wasn't right. So what I found was really shocking. So what I want to do, I want to go through the first principles, the law. What does the law say in Texas we have to keep for backup records? And then I'm going to talk about our case and what we found and the issues and the irregularities and the illegalities that are going on in Travis County. And I'll tell you what, guys, it's not just Travis County. It's almost every county in the state. Who knew? I've been talking about this case for 10 months across Texas. Many of you, my friends here, have been in multiple presentations. They're frequent flyers. That's what I would call them. Yes, I know several of them in here. And I'll tell you what, we didn't know this when we started, that it's going on all over the state. And we're going to take back our power in our elections and have honest and fair elections in this state, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. Okay? You got it. You ever had a representative not listen to the people? Ever had that?
No.
Yeah, maybe they know we don't matter. Maybe they know. And I'm going to tell you why they might know this. Okay, let's move forward. So in Dallas County, you guys use the ES&S voting equipment, and it's a touch screen. Well, I'm going to talk about most of the equipment that we're going to talk about in this presentation is going to be what Tarrant County uses, what Austin uses, what Galveston uses, what Houston uses. 100 counties use the equipment I'm going to show you, but it applies to Dallas, and I've got some Dallas data. I'm going to show you that towards the end. So what happens to your vote when we vote electronically? You ever wondered what happens to it? You have the machine, you select your candidate, you see the ballot on the machine, and guess what? That electronic vote goes on to what's called a memory card. It's called a mobile ballot box, MBB. And where do all those cards go, election judges? They all go to one central computer. If you want to steal an election, you don't want to worry about being at all those precincts and all those election judges. You want to be at the main computer. That's the efficient engineering way to do it, and that's what we found. So keep this in mind. All those memory cards from all the judges and all the precincts go to one location. They go to the main computer. They all converge to that, all right? So keep that in mind. Let's talk about the laws in Texas, the first principles. Texas has some of the best election laws in the country, and I've read several states' election laws. What we have is amazing. Our legislature is so, attention to detail is phenomenal. In Chapter 52 of the Election Code, it says the vote in an election is by official ballot. You can't vote on any old piece of paper in Texas. It's got to be an official ballot, okay? And you know what we do? We actually define what a ballot is. So I'm going to go through what the statute says is an official ballot. You have to have a unique serial number. You have to trace the ballots. It's in the state constitution and also in the election code. You have to have the name and date of the election. Who knew? You got to have the date of the election on the ballot. Pretty simple. You have to have voting squares. You see the squares to the left of every candidate's name? That's by law. That is required in the election code. And you have to have voting instructions. Well, we knew something was wrong with the results of our campaign. We knew there was something wrong with that result. So we asked for a recount. Let's just recount. It's easy. There's a problem. We can fix this. And in Texas, you can recount in two ways. Well, you have in Austin, in Travis County, and a lot of counties across the state, you have a mail-in paper ballot, right? Ballot by mail. Does anybody vote ballot by mail? Okay. We do in Travis County. And so we recounted those ballot by mails. And guess what? It was an exact tie with those paper ballots. 240 to 240. Remember, this is a little city council race, little district. Exact tie. The 2-to-1 came into play with the electronic ballots. And you can recount in two ways electronic ballots in the state. Number one, you could just run it through the same program. Well, spare me. That doesn't work, right? Any computer can be hacked, okay? Any computer can be hacked. So we said we want the second way, which is a really unique thing in Texas. You can hand count ballot images. What's a ballot? Serial number, boxes, everybody's name, date of the election. That's a ballot. We just saw what the definition is in the state law. Travis County said, well, guess what? We can't give you a ballot image. Really? We'll give you something else, and I'm going to show you what they gave us. And what's an image, guys? What's an image? A picture of a ballot. And that's what we expected, and that's not what we got. And I'm going to kind of jump to the end of the movie. No electronic voting equipment in the state of Texas can keep a ballot image for a recount. Not one. And nobody really understood that, I think, before we started telling people about it. Okay, so when we did the recount, we recounted the paper ballots, and I want to show you. Serial number, boxes, date of the election at the top, all the candidates' names. That's what a ballot is. Check, check, check. And that's not what they could produce when we did the recount for the electronic. Okay. I want to talk about the 3 records that have to be there, what the law says that has to be there for an electronic voting. The first thing is you have to have a computer to add up all these cards. Houston has 1,000 precincts. You have thousands of cards. Okay, so you've got to add all those votes up and spit out that result. The second thing you have to have is a precinct return. Okay, election judges, you know you print the precinct return on election night, and you have to have each candidate's name and the number of votes they got at that location. All right, that's the precinct return, and actually it's required by state law to do it, and if judges don't turn it in, it's a misdemeanor. All right? Election judges have a very big responsibility. Okay, it's a misdemeanor to not sign them and return them to the county. The third one is the big one. Ballot images have to be retained for a recount in case there's a question about the electronic result. It's in 3 places in the election code, and we're going to walk through that. Ballot image storage, images of ballots cast for a recount, and even the Texas Administrative Code defines what this computer equipment has to do, has to have a ballot image system for a recount. No equipment in the state can keep a ballot image. And I'm going to show you what ES&S calls a ballot image and let you decide. Okay, here's a little bit about the tape. Those of you who've not been election judges, it's a thermal tape. Judges have to sign them, and the county retains them for records for about 22 months. In Travis County, this is what a tape looks like. It's pretty common. This was back when Ted Cruz and Dewhurst were running for U.S. Senate. This is a tape that was in one of the precincts in Austin. You can see each candidate's name and the number of votes, and that's what a tape is. That's a results tape. Travis County, let me back up. This is also 2016 Judge's Handbook from the Secretary of State's office, and it actually references envelope 1, 2, and 3, chapter 66 of the election code for the results tape. No question, you have to do it as a judge. Travis County, in our election, told the judges not to print the tape. This is a copy of the judge's booth controller. We got this in our lawsuit. And number 7 says, do not print the tally. Judges, what do y'all think of that? Never heard of it. It's going on all over the state, not just Travis County. Okay, we got to have 3 records. The tabulation, the ballot image, and the tape. Well, one's missing. The tape is gone. And remember, it's a misdemeanor to not print it. I want to show you, this is an envelope from the recent primary in Travis County. Even with this lawsuit, we are at $200,000 lawsuit pointing out these illegalities in Travis County. They are continuing to do this. This is the March 1 primary envelope. Again, they tell the judges, do not print the tally.
Wow. Define the tally again.
Okay, good question. So let me show you what the tape looks like. This is a tally tape. You print it at the computer when you vote. The judges print them. It's a long tape, and it has every candidate's name and the votes they got at that location, at that precinct. That's a tape. You got to save it. And the reason you print it before the equipment leaves the building is in case something happens. In case there's damage to the card, the memory card, or the equipment.
Or
You've got to, pardon?
Or it disappears.
Or or the equipment disappears, those ballot boxes disappear, whatever. You judges are responsible for documenting this as a backup, and it's required by law.
Well, I print a real long tape, and we do in Collin County. It would have to be called the tally report. Otherwise, what else would it be called?
There's some things called access reports, access code reports. So you have to make sure each candidate's result is there. Okay? That's the tally tape. All right? Yes, sir.
What plausible reason do they give
I'm going to show you.
to not?
Yes, sir. Great question. Awesome. And I tell you, if we could hold the questions till the end, I would. Okay, I think that'll help. Okay, because I typically will get to your answer. Alrighty, so don't print the tape. Well, we asked Travis County, why did you not print the tape? Well, the Secretary of State's Elections Division is giving waivers to law to counties to not print the tape. This is a copy of a letter Travis County got from the Secretary of State's office and says, don't worry, don't print that tape. It takes too long because you're a county-wide polling location. And you might just have to print a lot of precincts. So don't worry, don't do it.
It's called an executive order.
It's called illegal. Yeah, i.e. illegal. So this is the letter we got. Travis County was provided this letter. And interesting, it's hard to read, but I'll read it for you. The Secretary of State says, don't worry, don't print the tape, it's okay, because ballot images remain on the equipment for recounts. Yeah, it even says it right there, okay? So we asked our Travis County Clerk, Dana DeBevois, why are you not following law? She said, well, that's not the final law. My lawyer's really good. He says, what is the final law? And she said, this is an excerpt from the hearing with her on the witness stand, the clerk. She said, there's additional instruction directives from the Secretary of State's office that says we don't follow that law, we do something else. And my lawyer goes, what? Do you think the Secretary of State can tell you not to follow law? And she says, absolutely they can, yes. That is big news. That a bureaucrat, unelected employee of the state can tell counties not to follow election laws. Imagine the Texas Department of Transportation or the Agricultural Department or whatever telling counties, don't worry, don't follow the law. You've got a letter from me, I got it. Does that make any sense? Absolutely not. And when we saw this, we said, no, there's something wrong. This is illegal. We're going to file an election contest and say no, no more, because this is going on all over. Okay. All right, let's talk about the ballot image. Now, this is a big, big deal because a ballot is clearly defined by state law. Clearly, thank God. Thank God for the Texas legislature, okay? So this is chapter 128 of the election code, and it came into play in 1997. And it defines what the computer system has to have for computerized electronic voting. And this number 2 says you have to have a main computer to coordinate ballot presentation. You got to see the ballot. Vote selection, that's the little wheel. And for Dallas County, you guys use the little touch screen. Ballot image storage. There you go. It's in the law. You see the ballot when you vote, right? So the equipment can store it because it shows it to you when you vote. Every ballot style is stored in that equipment because you have different congressional districts that overlap with city council and Senate districts, right? They're not all the same. And so there's multiple ballot styles that equipment has to show their district, their area. So you see a ballot when you vote. And if you didn't, we would be in a lot of chaos in Texas. So we're saying the ballot is shown, the ballot is stored in all that software, okay? Because you see it when you vote in result tabulation. This law came into play in 1997. What was going on in 1997? Netscape was an internet provider. Anybody remember Netscape? We didn't trust computers back then. And the legislature put some Band-Aids around this thing. They wanted backup records. They wanted a ballot image storage. They wanted the result tabulation. They wanted all of this. Okay. So in Travis County, we asked for this recount. Remember, it was 50-50 with those paper ballots. The electronic is where the difference came in. The 2-to-1 came into play. And this is the recount code, and it talks about images of ballots cast for the recount. Ballot, 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 all the way through the election code, okay? Travis County said, we can't give you a ballot image. We can give you something else. It's just the same. It's called a cast vote record. Cast vote record is not referenced in the election code anywhere in the state of Texas or the Constitution of the state. This is what they provided, and I'm going to blow it up. 4,000 pages were printed that look like this. Do you see a serial number on that piece of paper? Do you see boxes? Even the date, December 16, 2014. Do you see the date on that? I was in the election. My name's not on it. This is not a ballot. This is not an image of a ballot. It's not even an image file from a computer science standpoint. It's a data structure printed one per page to a template that's defined by some vendor. And it's a basic template. And this is what is being counted in recounts across the state of Texas. This came from the main computer about 5 steps past the voter. Okay? What's intended is a ballot image. When you vote, that equipment shows you a ballot image, and it's supposed to save it for a recount. This is many steps down the road past where the voter cast that ballot. We said this is not legal. This is going on in Texas for the last 13 years. Candidates have known you cannot get a recount in this state, and they didn't know what to do about it. I saw this, and with my engineering, very picky brain, I said, that's not a ballot. We're going to file a lawsuit. Where are the ballots, Travis County? The law says you're supposed to have it. Okay. So we did that. This has got, I mean, it's shocking. You could imagine a PDF file with Adobe Acrobat, and you could just move in pages after pages after pages. There's no record of where this is from. There's no traceable number, a serial number, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't know where this came from. Let's talk about Dallas County. It's even worse. I was in a recount in Morris County 2 weeks ago. They use the same ES&S equipment you guys do. Dallas County cannot store a ballot image either. This is what's produced as a ballot image for a recount for ES&S equipment. I'm going to blow this up. Each line is supposed to be what a voter voted per candidate. Mr. Womack was doing a recount. It was a school board, very, very small race in East Texas. But the point was, we now have a record of what ES&S's ballot image looks like, and it's this. Do you see a serial number, boxes, all the candidates' names, a date? There's not even a date on this sheet of paper that they used to recount. And I talked to the vendor, the ES&S vendor, on the phone when I was at Morris County. And I said, where's the ballot image? He said, we can't give you that. But I'll tell you what, the Secretary of State says this cast vote record, and this is a ballot image. They're defining it as that. And again, I don't agree with the Secretary of State. It's not legal. You can't just do anything you want in this state. You can't count anything. You've got to count ballots. So this is happening. This is what Dallas County is doing also. Okay. All right. Again, remember, the Secretary of State has said ballot images remain on the equipment. Well, they don't. When someone challenges it, it's not there. Okay? Travis County's own website says this stuff captures an image of the ballot. Well, where is it? Where is it? I have 4 U.S. patents, and I know how to read patents. So the Hart patents, interestingly, says it can do it. The Hart patents say it keeps an exact copy of the cast ballot image. They must have promised the state of Texas they could do it in the certification. But where is it? Is there a button on that equipment that saves it or doesn't save it? Where is it? This is the Texas Administrative Code for the Secretary of State's office. It talks about the requirements for electronic voting. You have to have a ballot image system for recounts. Where is it? Why is the Secretary of State calling those cast vote records and that those lines and lines of some result that's a ballot image? Well, it's not. Remember, you see the ballot when you vote. Okay, so that's the law. We said stop the presses. We did the recount. They couldn't produce what they were supposed to, so we filed an election contest. And we got discovery. We got 1 round of discovery with our trial judge. And we're looking for something. What's wrong with this picture? What is wrong with how Travis County is either tabulating the vote, or what else is going on that could have caused that number to be off? So I know math, and you know, campaigns, people who've worked on campaigns, we get lists of early voters, right? We get these lists, and we know who's voted, so we take them off our rolls so we don't block walk them and don't phone bank them, right? So as a campaign, we had these lists line by line. Every 24 hours, campaigns get these lists. So when the results were canvassed, we went back and tallied up the numbers for early voting because we had those names. What was interesting, we found in almost every precinct in my race, there were more ballots than there were names that cast votes. That doesn't work. 18 precincts, the number of ballots, the number of names reported voting in early, and these are the numbers that were off. There were more ballots than there were names in almost every precinct. And I'm going to tell you guys, that's a fingerprint of a hack. It's not just 1 or 2. And judges, you know you can't be 1 or 2 votes off. You got to be really close, okay? So that was the first thing we noticed. Now, I supposedly lost by 1,300 votes, okay? And this came up to about 80 votes, but it said something's really wrong. Something is very wrong. Okay, so who in here likes math? Anybody? All right, okay. Hang with me. This is my favorite part of the presentation because I was sitting there one night, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I knew something was wrong, and I didn't know what. And so we were looking for patterns. We're looking for patterns in the data. So I had this inspiration. My opponent and I were in a general election with a total of 8 candidates. So there were 6 candidates that didn't make it to the runoff. He and I proceeded to the runoff. So what I did this analysis. Engineers, we work off the 80-20 rule. And that is where you focus on the big hitters, you focus on like 80% of where the big issues are. And that's engineers, that's how we're trained to focus and prioritize and do your work. So what I decided to do was look at the precincts where 80% of my voters voted. And I decided to just look at me and my future opponent in the general election, and I looked at what the 90% of where people voted in those precincts, the number of votes that I supposedly got, the number of votes he supposedly got in that general, and I looked at my ratio to just that, ignoring the other 6 candidates. It's a little bit unique way to do it, okay? And then in the runoff, it was just he and I, my votes, his votes, the total of he and I, and the percent that we got, percent that I got. What I noticed was shocking. 3 precincts stayed exactly the same percent. The number of voters changed, and actually half the voters had traded out in the runoff. They didn't even vote. You can see the numbers change, but look at that, the percent stays the same. That doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at all. So I had a statistician help us with our analysis, and he said, Laura, do this. On the x-axis, plot what you got in the runoff, and on the y-axis, plot what you got in the general, and see if there's a correlation. And do that for other candidates that had runoffs. So we did that. So hang with me. This is one of the races, same methodology, 80% of the precincts. On the X was the runoff, on the Y was the general by precinct. Another race, and you see it's kind of a scatter plot. This one's mine. It's a straight line with an R squared of 0.98. And I was an engineer for 17 years and managed engineers, and I knew what I was looking at. I have shut down $1 billion factory for semiconductors on data less correlated than that. This told me there was a program. It was a program. The slope is almost 1. They used the same program in the general that they did the runoff. And that's what this says. Not everybody would know what they're looking at, but I knew. And when I saw this, I felt like I had touched the devil. I'm not joking. I went to bed. I woke my husband up at 2 o'clock, and I said, my election was stolen, and I have proof. And he and I had a decision to make. Do we step up and take personal responsibility, or do we step back and be a victim? And we decided to step up. We did. Thank you. We have talked to candidates across the state who've also come and said, my election was stolen. And my question is, what'd you do about it? And their response is, I didn't know what to do about it. Because I'll tell you what, guys, this is very complicated. This computer stuff, it takes somebody who has a background and understands how this stuff works and says, no, this is not how it's supposed to happen. And this is the data you have to go get to go prove it. And so that was the skill set that I could bring to the table, and that we said, no, we're not gonna have this happen. Travis County did something wrong, and we're gonna address it in the courts. So this told me there was a program at the main computer, and it was targeted by precinct. All right, that's what this data says. And so we asked in our lawsuit for the audit logs of the main computer. So we think something happened at the main computer. And so we got those audit logs. Our lawyer requested them in discovery. We got them. And what were we looking for? We were looking for anything in that code, line by line by line. And an audit log is a time date stamp of every single thing that happens on that computer. Okay? And they're required by law to keep it. Line by line. So we read line by line by line. And what we found was amazing. Remember, vote on the machine, the card goes to the county, and it has to get into the computer. If you're going to hack a main computer, you got to have a touch point. The main computers in Texas are not, that count votes, are not wirelessly connected. So you have to have a physical touch. You have to physically program it on that computer, or you have to have something that gets into that computer. So we asked for those audit logs, and this is what we found. It was amazing. 9 times on election night, there were corruption errors on the main computer. Invalid, corrupt mobile ballot box. Invalid, corrupt memory card where the votes are supposed to be stored. Okay? Do you want to see the word corrupt at your main counting computer for your election? That's not a word you want to see. That's not a word I want to see, okay? But it told us a lot. So 9 times on election night, this corruption error was occurring. So they were putting in this corrupt card over and over and over again. Was it 9 cards or 1 card? We couldn't tell. So we asked the judge, can we get to the card that's corrupted and see what kind of software is on it? The judge said, no, you can't get to the card. We said, well, can we take the deposition? Can we get more evidence and take the deposition of the person putting this in over and over? Because there's a standard operating procedure in Hart InterCivic equipment manuals that say, when you see the corruption error, that's a big deal. Quarantine that card. They just kept putting it in over and over, okay? It's not the words you want to see. So the judge told us we could not get it. We had an expert witness, and this is a bit of an eye chart, but you can see the 9 corruption errors. We grouped them with red boxes. What happens was corruption errors are a known hack scenario for the Hart machines. There was a report done by the California Secretary of State's office. A Rice University professor was on the report, and so was a Stanford professor, computer science professor, and they identified these corrupt cards as being a hack scenario. And this is a quote from that report. An adversary may introduce corrupt mobile ballot boxes into the legitimate flow of mobile ballot boxes from the precincts back to Election Central, and this could damage the vote counting process. Well, looky there. Corrupt card in the flow of normal cards coming in at Election Central, check, check, check. Exactly identified 8 years ago as a hack scenario. We asked who had access to these cards, so we got the audit log of the computer that programs the cards, and what we found was again amazing. How many people's computer logs off after 15 minutes? Right? Mine does. After 15 minutes, my computer kind of logs off. What we found was one of the corrupt cards, the 603 that was identified in that sheet before, was loaded into the computer at 11/21, November 21st, and wasn't logged out till 10 days later. Where was that card for 10 days? Was it sitting on the computer, logged in, where anyone could get to it? Was it taken out? Where was that card? Again, the same card, 603, the one that was corrupted. Logged in on 10/1, logged out 10 days later, and that's early voting. Who had access to this memory card that was corrupted, that was put in on election night? So we asked the judge, we want to get to this card. And he said, no, Dr. Pressley, you can't get any more evidence than what you already have. We said, well, can we get to the manuals? Can we get the manual where the ballot image is supposed to be stored? And the county said, we don't have manuals. We don't have, what? Millions of dollars of equipment and you don't have a manual? Maybe if you had a manual, you could print a ballot image. That's what our lawyer told him. No, you can't do it. So we were limited in the amount of evidence we could get. And the judge said, well, Dr. Pressley, you have no evidence. We're going to give you a no evidence summary judgment, and kicked us out of court. I think we have evidence. I think we have a lot. So we respectfully disagreed with the judge, and that's why we're in this appeal process. But I want to tell you something else. There was something else on the table. The judge sanctioned us $40,000 for a frivolous lawsuit. And it was said in the courtroom they wanted to make sure no other candidate in the state ever filed a contest about these electronic voting machines ever again in the state of Texas. And there was a deal on the table. Our opponent's lawyer was up with the judge, with my lawyer, and there was a deal on the table. Well, we just won't pursue those sanctions if she will not appeal. I said, we're appealing. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. Travis County elections are not up and up. They're not following the law. And how else do you get satisfaction and the truth out if you don't follow the law? Okay? Our elections are the absolutely most important thing in this country. If we don't have fair elections, what do we have? We can't vote someone out. We can't vote the right people in. And I would say some of these representatives, city, commissioner, reps, senators, They know we don't matter. Okay? They know. A lot of them know we don't matter. Why do they know? Well, look what's happening. The backup records are not being retained across Texas. So we filed this appeal. We're in the appeal process right now. We had an oral argument a couple of weeks ago, and several people came, and we had 100 people show up to that appeals courtroom. We had 10 counties represented, because I've been all over the state, and people care about this issue. Because if we don't have fair elections, guys, we got nothing. What do we have, okay? Just let us know, do we have fair elections or not? And we will take it from there, okay? Just let us know. This is the first case in Texas. No candidates ever filed this. And I'll tell you what, I worked with 4 candidates over the primary, this last primary. Penny's story knows this story. 4 candidates, exact same stuff happened to them, and not one would touch this. Not one would file a contest. Not one would do a recount. We're it. Okay, because I tell you what, the status quo comes and says, well, don't be like a sore loser. Don't be a sore loser, right? And when I hear that, I tell my ego to take a back seat, because we got work to do. We got work, okay, in this state. So that's where we did. We filed this appeal. All right, let's back up. Big picture. 3 things have to be there, guys, for Texas elections. You got to have a ballot image. Well, we don't have that. You got to have a tape. We don't have that. And you got to have the tabulation. Well, that's corrupted. Where are we? And I'll tell you what, we had this last primary, I had 15 counties with poll watchers at the main computer. Imagine that, poll watchers at the main computer watching those screens for those corruption errors. And we saw those corruption errors not just in Travis County, other counties in the state. Okay? And judges are told not to print the tapes. All right? So let's big picture look at Texas. These are some of the counties I've been to and I've talked to personally. There are 2 kinds of ways we can vote in Texas. Countywide, have y'all heard of countywide polling? Collin County, I think, is countywide. Dallas is still precincts, okay? You can vote in either one. I mean, you have both scenarios. You have counties that are not printing tapes and printing tapes. Printing tapes and not printing tapes in each scenario. And in Dallas County, I've talked to several judges who told me they cannot print a tape. And it's inconsistent. Some judges say they print them, some judges say they can't. The machine wouldn't do it, okay? I've seen both. So imagine on election day, across the state of Texas, we have no tapes, and we've got no image. It's not just Travis County. It's not just Travis. And remember, the Secretary of State's own manual says to do it. And they're giving waivers to their own manual. It's amazing. Let's think about early voting. Judges, do you print a results tape for early? You don't. Go ahead, sir.
In Collin County, they do that step back at the counting.
Right.
After early voting too.
That's right. And I'll bet the judges don't sign the tape.
No, it's whoever they brought in
That's
that
right.
day to do the
You got
voting.
it. So early voting, there's no tape printed for about 95% of the counties in the state of Texas before the equipment leaves the building. Early voting is a disaster. It's awful convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Awful convenient. But where's the accuracy and where's the backup? Well, there's no ballot image, right? There's no image. Let me tell you about another waiver, the Secretary of State. You're going to see a pattern here with the Secretary of State of Texas. He says that cast vote record's a ballot image. Well, it's not. He says you don't need a tape, but we say you do. He gave another waiver this last primary. Many counties in Texas still use paper ballots. Many do. And you have a paper ballot when you cast ballot by mail, right? And so there's supposed to be a manual recount of at least 3 precincts in every county in the state to make sure that computer that counts those paper ballots is right. And there's not a program on that one. You can put a program on that ballot computer, ballot reading. You can certainly do that. He gave a waiver to every county in the state. Don't worry, don't do that audit of those paper ballots. The law says do 3 precincts at minimum, every county. And he gave a waiver. 1 email. County chairs got this email. He sent it out March 2nd. He sent it to the election administrators, the county chairs, and the county clerks. In 1 email, he waived 254 counties from doing the audit of paper ballots. Well, electronic, we have no backup, and now for paper, there's no audit. So I called Mr. Ingram, and I said, why'd you give this waiver to 254 counties all at once? He said, that's what we do. I said, wait a minute, Keith, why did you give it to every county? The statute says you can waive a particular political subdivision if you wanted to, but why did you waive every county in the state? He said, that's what we do. That's all he would say. I felt like a 4-year-old that my mom was saying, because I said so. That doesn't work in the state of Texas. That doesn't work. And that's what's happening, guys. Where's the backup? Where's the checks and balances that we as voters think are occurring? And this responsibility is on the Secretary of State's office, and they're not taking it seriously. All right, so I'm going to back up. Think of Dallas County and how we vote. And when is your vote most secure, and when is your vote least secure? Okay? There's 3 times we can pick to vote. Ballot by mail, early, and election day. And election day and ballot and early are done with electronic. Do y'all do paper ballots for early and election day here in Dallas? Can you do paper ballot? Okay, not a lot of counties can do that. Okay, so think of the...
There's a fourth now, is email has entered the picture too, so.
Say that again?
There are email ballots now in the process also.
But it hasn't happened yet.
Fourth format, it has.
You can email your ballot?
That's correct.
Oh my heavens.
That's for overseas.
Okay, yeah, but not, yeah.
Overseas, no.
You got it, okay. All right, I'm with that, okay. All right, so paper ballot, the ballot by mail, the computer still tabulates it. You can still have a program on there, but guess what? You got a paper ballot to go back to, right? Think about early voting. The computer tabulates, well, there's no image, and there's no tape for early. Election day, computer tabulates, there's no image, and in some cases, most cases, there's a tape on election day. So when is your vote most secure?
Ballot by mail.
When is it least secure?
Early.
When are we told to vote? You got it. And I'll tell you what Dallas does. We had a poll watcher at the main computer in Dallas on the primary. Dallas is adding up the early vote on Saturday. They downloaded all the results on Saturday. You think they know what the voters voted?
Yep, so they know how to manipulate the vote.
You
for
got it.
election day.
Early vote is how we tell them what election day is going to be. Okay? I want you to really reconsider early voting ever again. That's when we're told to vote, are we not? So convenient. It's so convenient. I'm going to give you an example of Dallas. Of Houston. Are y'all familiar with the Houston mayor race? Sylvester Turner and Bill King. So I did some analysis for that race because Sylvester Turner won. And what we found was surprising. Mr. King, the Republican, won ballot by mail at 52%. He won election day at 52%, the same amount. Early vote, he won 47%. He lost the election
Because of early voting.
because of early vote. He lost Harris County because of early vote. He had over 5,000 ballots to make up, and he made them up in early. That was before Fort Bend was even counted. Okay, Fort Bend's another issue. They're countywide, no tapes, right? But Harris County, he lost Harris County. And I've had candidate after candidate after candidate. I have candidates against John Wiley Price who have told me, you know what? I won ballot by mail and I won election day, but I lost early and I lost the whole thing. Okay, there's no backup for early voting. I want you to really consider how convenient that is, but how there's no backup record. And I'm going to tell you guys, when the ballots leave the building, whether they're in a memory card or they're paper, all bets are off. Okay? All bets are off. So what are we doing about this? Honest and fair elections are going to happen because now what do we know? We know what's going on. We didn't know. I didn't know back a year ago when I started this case against Travis County in this election contest that this was going on all over. I was going around getting people to help me raise money for this legal case. And I started having counties come tell me, this is what's happening here. And I was in shock. I didn't know. So what are we doing about this? Travis County, we've got the lawsuit going on. We've taken the judicial approach. What did we do? We did the recount. They were violating law. We filed the election contest. We had a trial. We did discovery. We're now in the appeals court. Travis County is being held accountable. The first time in the state any candidate has ever done this. Ever, ever, ever. There's nothing more important than our elections. So as I've been traveling around the state, we're starting to educate the grassroots. You guys now know what's going on. We didn't know before, right? And so you can call your legislators, you can call your county commissioners, all right? You can call Senator Huffines. Senator Huffines has been in my presentations, and he is on this. He knows what's going on, okay? Support him. Senator Bob Hall knows what's going on, and he's supporting us, okay? So we've talked to the legislators. We've said, we're not following law that you guys put up. And you know what, these legislators are a little territorial about their work. They want people to follow the laws they passed. They want that. So we've talked to the state senators, state reps, the election committee. I've been in the lieutenant governor's office. They were not aware this was happening, okay? So Senator Hall came out with a press release it was in March, and I'm going to quote the most important piece of this press release. And we worked with him to go do a survey of all these counties. Who's doing the tape? What are they doing? He's an electrical engineer, and he understands how this stuff works. He knows computers. He's done it, right? So he said this conclusion. He said, it is not possible to truthfully validate any election result or conduct a legally sufficient ballot recount in the Texas counties where electronic voting without a paper trail is being allowed. That's a big statement. You have a state senator saying you can't trust electronic voting in the state of Texas. That's big, guys. Huge. All right, so we've got state senators. I've been meeting with state senators and state legislators on this because we've got an issue here. Fourth thing, executive branch. Greg Abbott. I was at the convention. Who was in the convention? How many people? Okay, yeah, I was a delegate. Thank you to Professor Broden. He helped us get this election integrity, these issues on the platform. Okay, we had multiple counties roll up resolutions. We tried at the SREC, we couldn't get it done, so we decided to go to the state convention. Multiple counties rolled up these resolutions, and we got 3 huge items added to the platform for 16. And I'm going to go through each one. The first one is very big. We support the Secretary of State strictly enforcing printing of tapes for electronic voting for early and election day at the polling location for all counties. Not just print them after it goes down and it can get messed with. We want the judges to print it right then and there. We added this to the platform. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, we support all means of protecting the integrity of our elections, including optional use of paper. Counties want paper. And I've talked to election experts. I'm not an election systems expert, but what the experts tell me, you have to cast a ballot, paper ballot, at the precinct on one day, and you count them on site. You don't let them leave. That's it. That's the best known method. It's not pretty, it's inconvenient, but look what we get. Look what we're getting right now with the system we have. Third thing is huge. We oppose, the Republican Party of Texas opposes county-wide polling locations due to the heightened potential for fraud. Because those county-wide is why they're not printing the tapes, supposedly, right? Takes too long, don't worry about printing it. The Secretary of State's been telling the Elections Committee and the legislature, everything's rosy with countywide. Well, it's not. 90% of the delegates voted to put this on the platform. This is a mandate to Greg Abbott. It's a mandate for the legislators. 90% of the 4,500 delegates that voted for this. Okay, we're not messing around. We want this fixed. Yes, sir.
Did
Did you file a criminal charge against that commie judge that ruled against you? It's a conspiracy. It's obviously a conspiracy.
Well, you know, we respectfully disagree with the judge, and the appeals court can do multiple things. They can do something narrow or they can do something broad. We suspect they're going to rule on the ballot image. That's really the whole crux of our appeal, is that you have to count ballots. You can't just count any old piece of paper in Texas and call it a vote. You just can't do it. So if we go back, if we win the appeal, we'll probably get back to the trial court and we'll have the same judge. But he'll have instructions from the appeals court. Judge Dan Mills, M-I-L-L-S. M-I-L-L-S. S is in Sam. Mills.
And what county is he?
He lost his re-election in 2000, I think, 13. I'm not sure what year, 14 maybe, 14. And he was appointed by the Travis County Administrative Judge to our case. And so he'll have some instructions from the appeals court when we go back. And we really trust the appeals court is going to do the legal thing. And this has been a question in Texas for a period of time, these ballot images. This is what's being used across the state right now, guys. Yes, ma'am.
Jody Loftenberg, the chair of the elections
Yes.
committee, is she working with you? How?
We've asked to meet with her office, and that's not happened yet. So if any of you could help that, we would love for you guys to give her feedback and make that request for us that are in her district.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, but we've met with Craig Goldman. He's been in our presentation. He's on the elections committee. He's in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, and a couple other election committee members. And they didn't realize this was happening. They didn't realize it.
Well, I'm in Jody's district, so.
Oh, please. We would be very grateful for that. Yeah, and you've got the one-page summary. Okay, so what I've shown you is kind of a longer term with the 2017 legislature. We want some things firmed up. We were in Senator Van Taylor's office, and his chief of staff said, well, Dr. Pressley, what kind of legislation would you want to see to try to address this? And I said, well, I think the laws are there. We just need to follow them. I said, if you want a law that says, tell the Secretary of State not to tell counties to violate law, you could get that. He laughed, because that's kind of silly, right? Why is the Secretary of State giving waivers to law? They're a bureaucrat. They're supposed to implement and follow law. All right, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Keith Ingram, who is the election director,
Yes.
how does he get his job? And
He
how
was-
do you get him kicked off or whatever?
Yeah.
He was appointed by Rick Perry many years ago.
So he keeps the job?
He
until
keeps the
he
job.
quits?
We've tried to, we've escalated that we think he needs some guidance. He needs to change what he's doing, and it hasn't happened. And I'll tell you another thing, guys. You know, we're in this $200,000 lawsuit, and if we had the tapes, we wouldn't be here. How cheap is that to print those tapes? And you know, sometimes I really do have compassion and understanding for when rules are set and legislators may not understand the consequences, the bigger picture of how it impacts us out here. They know how it impacts us, and nothing's been done. You saw, the waivers are still being given. They're still not printing the tape. There's no backup record. There's only what the computer said we voted, and that's corrupted. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. You have to have checks and balances. That's what our country's based on. Yes?
And another thing too, they call it a frivolous lawsuit when you have all
Yes.
this. What's the definition of frivolous? I guess the judge can define it however.
We're appealing that also. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Can we ever go back to paper ballots?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that given what the promises we were told, the ballot images were gonna be there, blah, 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 we can't trust this. So, election experts tell me, paper ballot at the polling location, counted on site.
Yes.
Okay? That's the best known method. That's the trustworthy method. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we get paper ballots in Ellis County, but we also have a chip.
Yeah,
So
you count
that
them.
chip can go to the main office and be corrupted, because we don't count them.
That's right.
And I will tell you, in Ellis County, we normally have an audit of paper ballots where we count them, and our GOP chairman this year decided not to count them.
He got the waiver, Penny. He got the waiver. So, Mark, when you get the waiver next time, you say, no, we're gonna do it. Okay? Because I've been talked to many county chairs, and they got it, you know, okay, whatever. No, this is important. This is a check and balance. Yes, sir.
Well, this is such an important question, and I'd almost guarantee the county's gonna appeal to the Supreme Court.
You got it.
That's perhaps another $100,000 going to the Supreme Court.
I know.
And another year or two before you get back to the Travis County judge.
Well, that's a great question. This is an election contest, so it's an accelerated appeal. So we should hear something very quick from the appeals court, the Third Court of Appeals, and when we win, they most likely will refer it to the Texas Supreme Court. And our lawyer has said, you're really stuck with the briefs that you have already, and we have to address the issues that our opponent would make and the appeals court gave. And she's estimating 30 to 40,000. That's what she's estimating. We've had one lawyer, and they've had 10. Some frivolous lawsuit, right? Some frivolous lawsuit. If you got to have 10 lawyers, I tell you what, that's a little bit something else. Yeah. Yes,
One more
ma'am.
question. Okay, so I'm in Collin County, not in Dallas County. So what kind of dialogue could I have with the county commissioners courts? Because they pay for these machines.
Yes.
They appoint the election administrator.
Yes.
So that would be another avenue to go into and say.
Absolutely. I
right,
love that. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to pass our sign-up sheet around, guys, and we'll take some more questions. I'll go ahead and pass this around. Hold on one more thing. And I want to say, we're here for 2 reasons. I'm not shy about it. Education and ask for your help. I cannot do this alone. My husband and I put in $80,000 of our own dollars savings into this case, and we've raised about $120,000. And we are looking at the Texas Supreme Court. So we need your help. We can't do it alone. And if this has touched you and you're inspired to help us, we're here. So I'm going to pass this around. And I actually have stamped, addressed envelopes. If you don't have what you want to donate with you right now, I can give you this later. Okay, so to answer your question, yes, Collin County is interesting because you do print the tape on election day. You don't print it early, and you don't have an image. So those 2 things you have to deal with. I want a tape for early voting. And they say, well, the judges will tell us, it'll get out who's winning. Well, then sign some affidavit or something to your judges that they're not going to release information. Tape early and the image. That's what you need to do.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Excuse my ignorance on
Could
this
you?
a little bit. Excuse my ignorance on this a little bit, but the Secretary of State is making these arbitrary decisions away to the law. Who does the Secretary of State answer to? And who can?
The governor. The governor appoints the Secretary of State.
It's not the Secretary of State that's creating these executive orders. It's a bureaucrat.
That's right.
The Secretary of State is not signing this order.
Well, let me show you the letter. I'm going to show you because the answers they are. It's on their letterhead. So let's go there. That's a great question. Be patient with me here just a moment. We'll get back to it.
It's Keith Ingram that's signing these orders, not the Secretary of State.
There we are. He's signing it under the Secretary of State's authority.
But the Secretary of State is not signing it, and that's significant in itself.
It is, and we've communicated with the Secretary of State to do something about Keith Ingram, and it's not happened. He's a bureaucrat that's waiving law.
Even Barack Obama signs executive orders. It's not that.
He's not a bureaucrat, though.
He's not a bureaucrat. That's
He's
right.
not. He's not. Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little confused, Laura, as to why the judge could refuse to allow you to have the evidence you were asking for and then turned around and said you have no evidence.
Right, exactly. We disagree with that. We respectfully disagree with the judge, and that's in our appeal, that not only did he limit evidence, he ruled we had none. And that really is that doesn't work. And so that's where we really trust the appeals court's going to do the legal thing. Yes, Penny?
Well, this points out the importance of paying attention to what judges are. We must know our judges, because if we don't want corrupt judges, then we have to elect more honorable judges. So we have to be more educated. Because
Okay, any other questions? Well, I'll be here if y'all want to talk, and like I said, we can't do this on our own, so I humbly ask for your support. Yes, sir?
More ways where we can get your information in front of more people, your website,
Yes.
DVDs you got, your
There's one being made on
presentations,
this.
anything like that.
We have, on the one pager that I sent out, that I handed out, is my email and my contact information. I go anywhere in the state of Texas and tell this story, because the more we know, the more we can do something about it. So I'll go anywhere. If anybody, you have a Rotary Club, or you have a retirees club, anything, I'll be there. Okay, God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. Yes, sir? Oh, go ahead.
A while back, you mentioned that, I guess one of the counties claimed that the machines they were using could not provide the images.
Right.
Yet that is, according to their patent, what they can do. Is there a way to, although we know that it's a lie, that the machine actually can do it, can you put out what is almost a threat to sue the manufacturer of the machine based on the fact that, and what's being told is that they can't provide what they said they could provide?
Right, they're in breach of contract with the
Correct.
state of Texas for the last 13 years. That actually is Ken Paxton's job.
Oh,
That would be his job to do that. So we are talking to him, and he's aware of this, very, very aware. And I've presented to the Golden Corridor Republican Women, which is over in Collin County in McKinney. And Angela Paxton is a dear friend of mine. We went to high school together. And so they're aware of this, so they're looking at it.
The Attorney General also represents the Secretary of State.
He is over the elections of the state, the Attorney General is.
Yes.
Yes.
He also represents the
He would,
bureaucracies.
yeah, he would. But he also would he would represent the Secretary of State if Hart is in breach of contract with the state of Texas. That's how you would do that. Yeah. It's tenuous.
We need to wrap it up.
Okay, one more. I need to wrap it up. Yes, ma'am.
How would you tell any of us, I've done poll watching, but how would you tell a poll watcher to beware, or is there anything we are able to do? We're supposed to quote unquote be silent.
Okay, this is,
whatever.
I'm glad you brought this up.
But I will just tell you, the one
Yes.
time, there are different things, but there was a candidate, the election judge. Okay, there was an election judge on the other side when I was poll watching, and I've been in several different locations. But when she pulled out, on election night, she pulled out a tabulation out of the machine, looked at it, wadded it up and threw it in the trash. Deborah is her name, first name. Good black woman, Deborah. I thought, you're not supposed to ever throw anything that comes out of that thing. And so I thought I was being sneaky to pull it out to just get a hold of it. One of her cronies, and she came over to me, and I should have called the police. She said, you learn, the older you get, the more things happen to you in life, the more you say, yeah. But what can a poll watcher do?
You can sign it, you can write up an affidavit that's signed and notarized, and that you turn in to your Republican Party chair.
I thought I turned something
Okay, and the Republican Party chair, Mr. Montgomery, has to sign off the primary results, right? That's part of what y'all do. You can refuse to sign off the results until you see every tape. Okay? That is the pressure. That's the chain of command, how this can happen. If the stuff's not being printed, the Republican chair can say, you know what, Dallas County, I'm going to expect to see every tape from every precinct before I sign off these results.
That's called a canvas.
It's a canvas.
Is there more power as a poll watcher or as an election judge? Because in these places.
Election judge.
That's what I thought.
Poll watcher can only observe, okay? And I want to tell you what happened, and I know we have to go. Just one more thing. We had a poll watcher at the main computer in Dallas County on March 1. And what happened was shocking. And I have a signed affidavit from the two people that watched Dallas County in the main computer. They would not let them into the main computer. They would not let them do it, okay? Now, there's this printer, right? Y'all saw the audit logs. The printer is supposed to print when anything happens on that computer. So they show up in the morning. Dallas County's already put in all the early vote. on Saturday. It was already done, so they couldn't watch that. So they were told, you can watch when results come in after 7 o'clock. So they were there. They were kept trying to get them to go away, and they stayed and stayed. And it was very painful, very abusive, actually, at the county office. These two guys tolerated so much. That line printer started printing at about 3 o'clock in Dallas County. What was going on? Something was being downloaded on the main computer in Dallas County at 3 p.m. before the polls closed.
Wow.
These poll watchers saw that computer start printing, and they said, we're allowed to watch that. I had poll watchers all over the state watching the main computer print out this stuff, okay? You're allowed to watch it.
So was this
Hang on.
in every?
This is, they could not get to what the line printer was printing, okay? So the county called the Secretary of State's office. They got the Secretary of State on the phone. It was a representative, a lawyer, and the poll watcher was in the room, and the Secretary of State told Dallas County the poll watcher could not watch it.
Who said that? The Keith guy?
Ashley Fisher, lawyer at the Secretary of State's office, told Dallas County in front of our poll watcher on the speakerphone they were not allowed to watch that line printer when they're watching them all over the state. You got it. That is blocking a poll watcher is a Class A misdemeanor. So this is happening in Dallas County. You can't. They were very protective. They didn't want anybody watching what that printer was printing at 3 p.m. before the polls closed.
saying you can't use your phone.
But they tell you, as a poll watcher or whatever, that you're not allowed to have your electron,
You can't. All you can do is take notes. That's it. That's all you can do is take notes and be a witness. It's very strict. All right, Mary, one more thing. Mary, quick.
Thank God we have a new
Yes,
GOP
yes,
for Dallas,
totally.
because the old one was so long to get along, not cause any trouble. I was chewed out because I showed up at Martin Luther King poll watch, and the guy said, Wade said, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
So, the difference between the poll watching in Dallas used to teach the Republicans, to true the vote, we big organizations, we're gonna learn their poll watching. Because first thing you learn, there are no cameras in the room, right, when you poll watch. You have a piece of paper.
You
you're
document.
documenting everything they do. So it will refresh your mind if you need it. And keep that book and write everything down that you do.
Yeah. So the power is with the county chair to set the expectation that I'm going to have poll watchers, you're going to print the tape, and I want a poll watcher at the main computer. Okay? And when that doesn't happen, y'all have the power to do something. Okay? But we have it documented. They were told by the Secretary of State. You see a commonality here with the Secretary of State? There's an issue there, guys. Big issue. Okay. I'll be here if you have questions, so bless you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Somebody asked about the information on this. There is a DVD being made of her presentation, and we'll try to let you know about the availability of that if you want to take it to show it to some people and get it into some hands and so forth. And Kurt, what did you make? Did you make another DVD there, or just?
Right, it's a DVR, but it's
Okay.
it plays on a computer instead of on a TV.
Okay, so we'll have that information available. We will not be meeting in July and August. We normally take July and August off. We will stay in touch with you over the internet, and we'll let you know when some of this stuff is available or if anything big breaks. And we do have some DVDs on the back table. They're $1 each from past programs. Most of them were made up in Midland, and of some of our speakers. If you go through, if there's something in there you might need to educate people, just go ahead and get one. Thank you. Have a great summer. We'll be in contact with you, and we'll see you in September.